Devlin, Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
iOS, it's only sport. That's the name of our show that we broadcast on the platform 1 till 4 every afternoon. My name is Martin Devlin, Lachlan War alongside, and this is the highlights package of today's program. Obviously, we're talking Ashes with the third test starting at Headingley tonight. An industrial dispute going on between the NRL and the Rugby League Players Association, and the players not going to do no media for the next 5 days. We are raving still about SVG, Mark Larko Larkham. You know him from Supercars. He joins us to talk all about that remarkable NASCAR win. Plus, you're running for 101 hours non-stop. Ultramarathon runner Sam Harvey on why he does it. But first, as always, it's tablets in hand. I say gather my flock. Here's a conundrum and a question. Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
As Mark Todd once so infamously said, that's a curly one. Remember that? One of the great New Zealand sports quotes. Question for you. And you're only allowed to pick one. This weekend, would you rather the All Blacks beat Argentina or the Warriors beat Parramatta? How is that for a conundrum? Having to choose between your two children, in sporting terms, of course. The obvious answer is, well, I'd like them both to win. But for the purposes of this random poll, that answer is not allowed. In terms of importance, I got to say the Wars need to win more. Sitting 8th in the table, 2 points ahead of the Cowboys. The Cowboys have got the bye this weekend. The Warriors have to win or else they're going to slip out of the 8. What? Hang on a sec. We were up to 4th a couple of weekends ago, weren't we, after the win versus the Dragons? Yes, we were, but this is how the competition works. It's that close. You drop a game, the others around you win. 4th to 9th can happen in 2 weeks, so it's vital. It is crucial for the Wars. As for the All Blacks, every win is also very, very important. We all know that because we are the All Blacks. We have to win every time we play, but it's not what I'd call essential. If we did lose, we get another test versus South Africa the following weekend. Yes, it's the Rugby Championship, and we want to make a statement. We want to show the world that we are back, that yes, we will be a threat at the World Cup. Last year was last year. This year is this year, and we may not be the number one seed, but yes, we are still the most dangerous team to beat at the World Cup. We need to make that loud and clear. But if we lose, it's not the end of the world. Even though the boringly predictable mainstream media will overreact, as they will, and they'll jump back on the same bandwagon and write all the same anti-Foz stuff as last year, and why can't Razor just start being the new coach right now, all of that kind of bollocks. You know it's going to happen if the All Blacks lose. But the Warriors, again, have to win, because the week after this, it's the Sharks, another top 4 side, and yes, next week, they'll still be top 4. See what I mean? The Warriors have got to keep winning to maintain that top 8 spot, because the Sharks are playing the Tigers tonight, and they're going to win. These Warriors, I believe, need the win more than the All Blacks do, and that is why I'm ticking them if I was forced to, and I did have to choose.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
Well, welcome to the show, people. If you're just joining us, 0800 Debate is our number, 0800 332 283. 5050 on the text, the easy way to get in touch with us. The news headlines, which are what?
I'll start off with big news involving one of our Super Rugby franchises. Moana Pacifica have reportedly found their replacement for outgoing coach Aaron Major, Blues assistant and former Blues coach, and I think we can all agree New Zealand rugby legend Tana Umaga.
Woo! Come on down, Tana.
He's apparently, it's reports at this stage, taking up the role from the 2024 season.
Good idea.
Yeah,
good idea.
I mean, as a head coach, he did very well with counties. Didn't really do so well with the Blues. But maybe Moana Pacifica is a different kettle of fish with the whole cultural element of the team.
No, look, I think
maybe it works better.
To me, it's absolutely essential that a Pacifica man gets appointed to that job.
Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely essential. And look, and this guy just carries mana. There's no question about that. Tana is a great guy, and
Tana Umana.
Well, I actually think
that was good. No, come on, that was quite good. I thought Tana Umana.
I think they probably lucked in with this. I don't know tactically whether or not all of that kind of stuff, but I just think in terms of the figurehead, it's probably a damn good appointment.
All-Whites midfielder Sarpreet Singh has been sold by German giants Bayern Munich to second-tier club Hansa Rostock on a 3-year deal. Now, this is a bit of a shame because Sarpreet Singh was signed in 2019.
He never cut it, though, has he? He's had a lot of injury problems.
Because he's been injured, and he had a real bad pelvic injury, I think. And so he just hasn't really had the chance to show his true skill set.
But when he first signed for Bayern Munich, it was amazing. He was playing in their pre-season matches. I think he scored a penalty in one of those matches. Came on. They had a squad of 25, and he was in it.
And he was playing with the starters like Thomas Muller and Robert Lewandowski at the time.
3 or 4 years later, I mean, it's a bit like Ryan. It's a bit like Ryan Thomas. Just the injuries have tagged these two guys.
Exactly. For the Wellington Phoenix, they've signed rising young defender Lucas Kelly-Heald to the longest deal in the club's history in the A-League. The towering teenager has inked a 4-year contract that will see him remain with the team until the end of the 2026-27 season. So he's there for at least another 4 years. At Wimbledon, 2 environmental activists jumped out of the stands at court 18 and disrupted a match by scattering orange confetti and puzzle pieces on the grass. Security guards hauled away the woman and man wearing T-shirts from Just Stop Oil, an organisation that wants the British government to stop oil, gas and coal projects.
Can I just put a span on that? From now on, at least on this program, because I was listening to another radio station on the way in this morning, and in their sports news, they spent way too long detailing what these idiots' cause was and why they're protesting. I don't think that we need to acknowledge that at all. Get off our sports events, you clowns. Okay? So let's just do the news that they got arrested.
Okay. Yeah.
And let them publicise themselves somewhere else out of our sport.
Well, Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right.
They're telling off. It's good telling off.
All right. Australian Test cricket captain Pat Cummins refused to apologise and declared he would happily dismiss a batsman in the same manner as Jonny Bairstow was stumped at Lords as he doubled down on the flashpoint of the Ashes series so far. This is what Pat Cummins had to say. The team did nothing wrong, so we're all comfortable. We've all moved on. You'll have to ask me in the future. At the moment, I'm really comfortable with it. Maybe down the track. Asked whether he would do the same thing again in a test match, Cummins simply replied, yep. Brilliant. I like this. I like what Pat Cummins is doing. He's just staying firm, doubling down.
They got nothing to be sorry about, the Aussies.
Nothing to be sorry about.
Look at the scoreboard.
On his Tour de France debut, former Giro d'Italia champion and Australian cyclist Jai Hindley took the yellow jersey after winning the 162.7k fifth stage that also included a daunting 5.2k grind up Col de Soudé. This was the first full mountain stage in the Tour de France we had. I think the first two were kind of, they've been described as flat/mountain stages. So no, an Australian leads the Tour de France at the moment in the general classification. That's quite cool. Adam Yates, I believe that's his name. Adam Yates, hold up, I'm just... General ranking. Adam Yates was holding on to the yellow jersey. He doesn't have it anymore. Jonas Vingegaard, the defending champ, he sits in second. He is 47 seconds off of Jai Hindley in the rankings. I would say for the time being, Martin, that is what is making news.
Devlin.
Oh my goodness me!
The platform.
Ashes' third test tonight after all the excitement of Edgbaston. And then the argy-bargy from Lords. Eddingley tonight, Scott Bailey from AAP joins us. So let's just explain to people, a draw is enough from here for Australia to win the Ashes, retain the Ashes. You still call it win the Ashes, or you call it retain? Okay.
It's funny, I was having this conversation yesterday with a few of the Australian players in interviews, and sort of in 2019 when Australia came here, it was all about retaining the Ashes in England for the first time since 2001. And they did that, but they didn't win the series. They drew the series 2-2, lost that last match at the Oval, which has been a real motivation for the players ever since. So all the talk in this visit is all about winning the Ashes series, winning in England for the first time since 2001. And Pat Cummins made pretty clear yesterday that they will not be playing for a draw in this test match. They certainly don't want to walk away from this series of a drawn series to retain the urn. They want to win the urn. So, yes, technically a draw will be enough for Australia to retain the Ashes, but as far as the players are concerned, anything short of winning it from here would be a failure.
Yeah, but look, this is what we want from sport. We want narratives, we want storylines, we want drama, we want pantomime. We want heroes, we want villains. I mean, this is why we do it, isn't it?
Couldn't agree more. Mate, as a journalist, as you well know, I couldn't think of anything better than what's happened the last couple of days. She's just given us some stories. But that's exactly right. I mean, sport lives off more than just a result. Sport lives off the drama and the storyline that goes around it, and emotions, really, isn't it? And this tour so far has been full of emotions. None more so than in the last couple of days from both sides. But I mean, England and England's fans English fans are still ropeable about it. There's no question in that. Ben Stokes kind of tried to draw a line under it today and said, it's time to move on. But I fail to believe that they're not going to play with emotion come tomorrow. Jonny Bairstow, Stuart Broad in particular. And as far as Australia are concerned, it's been a case of, well, there's nothing to see here. What's wrong? It was out by the rules and he walked out of his crease. Why wouldn't we stump him? So, I think Pat Cummins said yesterday to us that everyone who's ever played cricket knows that's out. And he doesn't see what the big deal is. It's a non-event. So, those kind of differing of opinions and the emotions we've seen from the English side of things, at least, has been, like you say, it's why we all love sport.
Look, when the Prime Ministers get involved, and you weren't old enough to be around at the time, but I lived through this, the underarm incident, and our Prime Minister, Rob Muldoon, famously said, there's a good reason that Australia wear yellow. Look, as soon as the Prime Ministers get involved, as soon as it comes to Parliament and it's on the floor and it's debated and discussed at that level, it's winning. And this is the whole point to me. It's about engagement. It's about conversation. And you need incidents like this to be able to fuel and actually not only provide them, but actually give us something then to cling to going on into the next one. If this was just an Australian win followed by Australia win, we'd be talking about the mechanics of, who's batting well and who's bowling well. But that's only just a small part of it. That's what I love about this Ashes series. The whole point of history and the whole point of tradition in sport is it involves more than just games. You're going back, you're dealing with politics. The bodyline thing, for God's sake, has been brought up, Scott. That's how good this is.
Precisely. And it's moments like bodyline, the underarm delivery that, they're the most talked about moments in sport, let's be honest about it, as controversial as they were. And I've got no doubt that the Jonny Bairstow stumping will be talked about for maybe not as long as bodyline, but it'll probably be talked about for at least the next couple of decades in terms of drama. And, there'll be another incident in the Ashes or another incident in cricket and it'll be harked back to this. And, I mean, the Prime Minister's becoming involved kind of part of you roll your eye and you think, well,
you do,
this is a good way to get into public discourse, isn't it, to talk about cricket rather than other issues that are going on, particularly, I guess. Or there's, cost of living issues in Australia too, but I guess especially over here where there's more political discourse at the moment. But regardless of that, like it still requires something to get them involved, doesn't it? And when you've got two going at it with differing opinions, it's great. And it's funny you mentioned the under delivery. Like I did think last week that Brendan McCullum and even Ben Stokes is a Kiwi-born Englishman. I wonder if they sort of were thinking a bit about the underarm delivery when that all went on. Even in the press conference after the game, Pat Cummins was asked if he was going to have his players start bowling underarm or man-catting in the next test, to which Pat Cummins said, well, it depends how flat the wicket is. If it keeps going this way, we might have to. But it just shows that, those things, like you say, sort of make sport, but they also keep being brought up again and again, just like this one no doubt will.
Okay, being an Aussie over there in the bear pit, I mean, you're in the media centre surrounded by all the English scribes who are going off and things. So how has that actually been?
It's been all in pretty good banter, to be honest. I think the best way I can sum up, or probably the best summary of the way things are over here at the moment is a couple of days ago, one of my colleagues, Bharat Sundaresan, who works for CricBuzz, but he's based in Adelaide, and he hired a manual car and hadn't driven a manual for a while and was struggling a bit. And police have actually pulled him over because he was struggling, make sure he's okay and knows what he's doing. And the cop checked his license and went, as soon as he looked at it, said, "Oh, same old Aussie's always cheating," which kind of sums up the line that we've all heard for a number of days now. So yeah, look, there's been a fair bit of discourse about it. Whenever you jump into an Uber or a taxi, if they like their cricket, as soon as they hear the accent, you're certainly hearing about their opinions on it. Let's put it that way.
Lachlan, I am the Minister of Common Sense. Next! And that means I get to decide. Not only do I get to decide, I get to decide what it is that I actually want to decide. Next! Who wins tonight? Well, it's a 5-day test, but who wins this third test starting tonight?
Because the first two tests have been real close and they've come down to little moments. I would go with Australia because I think this whole thing's really rattling England. And I think the manner in which not just the team, but the public over there have reacted just suggests that I don't know, it feels like it's a manner in which they can just turn away and turn the attention away from actually what the real problem for them in the series, which has been they have bottled it with their tactics. I'll never get over them declaring on that first day as early as they did.
Stupid.
Very stupid. There was obviously the drop catch by Ben Stokes. Australia had a drop catch as well, but I just the Bairstow stumping was a moment of it was just a lapse in concentration, and you especially in Test cricket, which Miles said it, you guys talked before our show started, where he said it brilliantly that it's the true meaning of the word test is a Test cricket match where there are 5 days where you need to be inch perfect in every department, and when you're not, you get exposed.
Right, when you're not, the Australians beat you.
Yes!
Better question might have been, who do you want to win? Because I want England to win this one.
Well, I
because
want it to be a series.
Yeah, same. I want it to keep going. Look, I want the Poms to win this one. I'd love them to win the fourth. You imagine the attention that would be on that fifth test if England managed to level this at 2s. But, if you're actually applying any kind of good sense, common sense to it, you would think that Australia are going to be 3-0 up after this, or that they'll secure it the one after that at Old Trafford. How long before the Bairstow incident is no longer relevant and no longer talked about? Do you believe that by the end of this test, if England they lose the Ashes, that is it? Or do you think that this is going to be lingering like the underarm and so forth?
Oh.
See, I don't think it's that big.
No, I don't.
Think,
it does feel like a bit of a storm in a teacup.
Especially since the reality of it is, and Simon Doyle will join us to talk about this in about half an hour or so, or 45 minutes or so, you got it wrong, Bairstow. You simply got it wrong. And did you walking out of your crease and getting stumped actually cost you the match, or did your stupid team's batting at 188 for 1 when you had that match, did that cost you the match? Yeah. See, this is what I think the problem is, and I think you're right. It's glossing over what have been some really dumb cricket decisions made under the Bazball umbrella. So that's why I don't think it's going to linger. I think what's going to happen in the end is that we're going to look back at it and go, in 5 years' time, that's right, that Bairstow thing happened and Aussie won the series 4-1.
Yeah, and
or 5-0.
I felt you jumped the gun when you said this either early this week or early last week, but I think you're actually onto something that they'll lose the series, and if it gets to a point where they lose it 4-1 or they manage to draw a test or they do get a win and maybe there's a draw in the last 2 tests, I'm not too sure, the knives will be out for Brendan McCullum. Absolutely, because it's not as if they're losing they are losing in a competitive way, but they're losing, and as we said, in moments. Oh, jeez, that's my watch talking to me.
Just talking to you. What
she thinks I said. She thinks my watch thinks I said Siri, and then says I said absolutely losing, and she said I'm not sure I understand. Must be an Australian cricket watch.
What I understand is that you're stalking me, watch. Yeah. Leave me alone.
She picks up on my voice a lot. But that it's not as if they're losing in a manner where they're playing almost blemish-free and just being beaten by a better team. There are issues in the way that they're playing. And the thing I do quite like...
They're scuttling their own ship, mate.
Yeah, and the position that Brendan McCullum's in as the Test cricket captain's a poison chalice, but at least when you're not playing well, people in that country come after you. Former players, pundits and whatnot. Oh, yeah. So he's going to have to answer to some serious questions at the end of the series.
He's one of the very best in the business. You watch him sideline during the Supercars, you got to love Mark Larko Larkham. Joins us with his thoughts on SVG. Well, mate, we've just been buzzed out here in New Zealand, as I'm sure that you have too, and I'm sure your phone has been ringing off the hook as well. Shane van Gisbergen. Larko, what was your initial immediate reaction after that race?
Well, isn't it? The first thing I say to all my Kiwi friends, who owns him? You say, hang on, he's a Kiwi. We say, hang on, he's over here racing in Australia. So let's just share him. Jokes aside, he is a Kiwi. We love him. My reaction, Martin, was one of genuine excitement, because as someone that works close to all these guys day to day, you don't get overly emotionally attached to or overwhelmed with any of them, because they're kind of buddies and you're around them and work compatriots. But I found myself with my son and my wife in front of the TV yelling, cheering and carrying on like like a spectator,
Go
like
on.
a punter. I really was. But if I'm brutally honest, Martin, I wasn't surprised. I genuinely wasn't surprised.
Why is that? Is it because this particular driver can get into any vehicle that you put him in front of and can drive? Is it you aren't surprised because it was him?
That's exactly right. So, Shane in a V8 supercar, we've had some greats, haven't we? Whether it's Wingcup, whether it's Scotty McLaughlin, doesn't matter who you talk about. Scafie, Ambrose, go back through the years. But Shane is different to all those guys for me in that his adaptability, number one, it doesn't matter what you've put him in. You've seen it yourself. You take him back over there, put him in Formula Toyota, he can win. Put him in a rally car, he can succeed. Put him in anything, a go-kart, a quad bike. It just doesn't matter. But on top of that, we often talk about, I think I've mentioned it with you before, Martin, Shane's got this incredible feel for a race car and an incredible racing brain. And it's all he does. He doesn't do anything else. He was born to be a race driver. So he just can compute what's going on around him, his car, where the traffic is. And when I was watching him when he was like, I don't know, it might have been 15 or 18 laps out, when they got through that pit stop kerfuffle, he was in about 8th spot. And I said to my wife then, I said, you know what? He'll win this. And I say that, Martin, not because I'm clever, but I've watched Shane so many times in our game when he's in the right place in the back half of the race with the right rubber on, reading the track, reading his tyre degradation, reading the play, reading the competitors, and he's just the best at it. And so he was in his sweet spot, smack in his sweet spot with 20 minutes to go in that race. And, no surprises. He made him look pretty ordinary, didn't he?
Larko, we had a guy called Nate Ryan on, who's the NBC senior NASCAR guy, and he was brilliant. He told us a couple of things, and when I say this to you, I expect that you probably saw this as well. But this is why I love you guys. You're seeing things that we don't see, which is why we need you to explain. He said that the difference was Shane was racing 3 inches closer to the wall than all the other drivers. Now that's remarkable when you think about it, because he's got no wing mirrors to guide him. But he said that was what enabled him to pick up that extra speed.
Yep. So to give that some further perspective, Martin, our cars that we drive in Australia are 1.5 tons. NASCAR would be something similar, maybe a little bit more. High horsepower, low downforce, under rubbered for all the tyre that we've got. So when you're driving a V8 supercar for years, as Shane has done, and when you've come off, as I often talk about, I love your circuits in New Zealand. They're tough. So Kiwi drivers already have an extraordinary amount of talent. And I say that not because I'm on New Zealand radio, Martin. I've said that to you 100 times before.
Yes.
The circuits you have over there and the junior programs you have and the kids coming through, you are disproportionately represented on the world stage. So Shane does what he does in a supercar. And you've seen the in-car footage like I have, mate. When Shane's in the car, there is no one in the last 5, 6 years, 7 years that uses the brake bias, the cockpit adjustable anti-roll bars like Shane does. He dances with the car. He drives it on the edge. So he's and this is my point. It's not something you can write on paper. It's not a technique you can teach. He's just got his internal G meter and his brain, his hand-eye coordination, all the things we want to be as race drivers. Shane's got that in spades. So not at all surprised when you take a massive car that's 1.5 tons, put it on a street circuit up against walls, and remember there was a racing line where it was wet off line. All of that stuff was just home territory for Shane. I mean, again, I just think he made, not that the other guys are ordinary, but flip it the other way, Martin. Every time we've had an IndyCar driver or a NASCAR driver, or in fact most international drivers come to Bathurst for a one-off, for example, not because they're not great talents, but they've really struggled in our cars. They've had to be on the other side of the car. They've got no downforce like they're used to. The cars are blind around you. All of that stuff, you don't know how the drivers around you are going to carry on. So the fact that they struggled pronouncing Shane's name said to me they weren't ready for what he delivered. And I reckon that was great.
He's the best sideline reporter you'll get out of any sport at all. Mark Larko Larkham with us. I know your time is precious, so just let me know when you have to go. I've got a couple of nerdy questions to ask you here. In NASCAR, they don't use the clutch, but Shane was using the clutch. So why was he doing that, and what difference did it make?
Yeah, well, that's technique that we developed using what are essentially road cars on road circuits. So, I do have some sympathy for the American driver he's competing against over there, Martin, because they grow up on ovals. A lot of them start on dirt ovals, then they get onto, ovals, they do midgets, all of that sort of stuff, and they end up spending most of their life on an oval. So, not saying a road course is foreign to them, but it's not their everyday bread and butter, and a street circuit is the next level of that. So part of the technique that we learn in managing a big, heavy car, as I said, when you brake the car, you're hard on the brakes. It's just not a matter of braking it. You've got to get from sixth gear down to second gear. Now, to do that, you can't just shove it down through the gears, because as the engine and the gearbox and the grip of the rear tyre all match up, sorry to sound complicated.
No, do, mate.
You get little lockups. You get little lockups of the rear tyre. So what you've got to do is obviously heel and toe, which is put your foot on the brake, and then you slide your foot a little bit. You twist your ankle around while you're still on the brake, and it's a real art, mate, because you've got to do this. You've got to blip the throttle, right, almost with your heel, right, whilst your top of your foot stays on the brake pedal, and you go zoom as you go down, and you match the gearbox revolutions, if you like, with the engine revolutions. So that means when you release the clutch, it doesn't lock the rear tyres onto the tarmac. It actually does it really smoothly. Now, it's a really hard art to master, because think about it. He might have had like 100 or 110 kilograms of brake pedal pressure under his right foot. And at the same time, he's going to hold that stable. He can't modulate it as he's blapping the throttle on every gear change. And then he uses his clutch to flare that, as we say, or to release that nice and smoothly, so there's no bite. I mean, just great technique.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Tight Five.
The Tight Five.
You're going to have to pick one, pal. All Blacks versus Argentina. This is just a silly old sports conundrum question. It's meaningless. Of course, I want both of these teams to win, but if you had to pick one, which one and why? Joey Chestnut. Again, this old chestnut comes up every July the 4th in America. He wins the hot dog contest. Is this bloody sport? I'm absolutely bored by this. Why am I talking about it? Tigers Sharks tonight. Is that the most obvious result so far all year in the NRL? Tana Umanga, the MP coach, just stop oil protests. Just stop reporting it. That is my answer to it. And there's going to be an NBA in-season tournament. Whatever, pal. All right, All Blacks versus Argentina, Sunday morning, 7 a.m. This is NZT. The night before, 8 o'clock, is the Waz. Away the Eels. I proposed this at the very start of the show, Lachlan. If you had to choose one, you were backed into a corner, which one would it be? I know because you're not a Warriors fan, you're not going to pick the Warriors, you're going to pick the All Blacks. I can tell already, right?
Yeah. I'd rather the All Blacks win than the Warriors, because I'm not a Warriors fan. If it was the Brisbane Broncos, who have a bye this weekend, then I'd absolutely pick the Broncos.
So let's just re-establish fact here. So if this was the Broncos playing a key match tomorrow night that kept you in the 8,
if it was us against the Eels, us against the Bunnies, us against Cronulla, us against the Storm, Panthers, whoever, 100%. I am whacking that Broncos button 50 million times.
Why?
Win.
Why is that because we just expect the All Blacks to win, or because this is not the Rugby World Cup, or what? What is the... See, I want the All Blacks to win every single game, because that's how I grew up. I grew up with the All Blacks winning every single game, just about. But at the moment, my emotional tie is with the Warriors, because I don't want us to drop out of the 8. And looking at that points table, a loss to the Eels, a bye for the Cowboys, they get that 2 points. That would mean slipping out of that 8th. Now, it was only a couple of weeks ago after beating St. George, we were 4th. And pundits across the ditch were saying, maybe a grand final, and then 2 weeks later you're out, and that would be 9 and 8 with a really tough game against the Sharks coming the next week.
Yeah,
I just feel, in terms of importance, that the All Blacks have got many more games to come that we are going to get right for the World Cup. But in terms of importance for the Warriors, this game is absolutely vital.
If it was a Bleeders Low Cup match that determined who actually wins the Cup, or it was a World Cup knockout match, or just a World Cup match full stop, I would be saying All Blacks all day.
Right.
Yep, absolutely.
Topic number 2 then. The hot dog eating contest. Are you bored by this? I'm bored. Look, I found it a bit of a novelty about 20 years ago when it first appeared on July the 4th, the hot dog eating contest and things. I just can't be bothered with this. I was watching it on ESPN before going, why are you covering this and calling it sport? It's not sport.
Yeah, I don't care.
Okay, right. Well, let's just move on straight away.
They love it, but I just don't care.
Ashes we have done. You're hoping, like me, that England win tonight, and that is just simply because we want the story to continue, and it's going to be a better story if there is a contest and it goes to at least the 4th test.
Agreed.
Tigers Sharks tonight. Is this the most single obvious result in the NRL all season?
I've got the odds here on TAB and Bet365. TAB is $1.06 the Sharks. Guess what the Tigers are?
Well, okay, they're conservative, so I would say it won't be anything over $5, but it'll be close to $5. More than $5?
$8.50.
$8.50?
$8.50. Bet365, $9.
$9? Okay, well, that just goes...
I'm putting money on the Tigers.
There's no way, mate. What did they get dicked by? 74 0 to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
They are playing at home. That doesn't really mean that.
And if you put down $20 on Bet365, you'll get $180
No, you
back.
won't. You're going to lose $20 because the Cronulla Sharks are going to dick them, mate. You might as well give the $20 to me.
It'll be paid out at half time if they lead by 8 or more points. So if you put $20 on the Tigers, that's that's 160.
No, but they're not winning.
You never know. It's you get 170 if they're up by 8 or more at half time. It's totally plausible.
You might as well put the $20 on whether Devlin runs on and plays for the Tigers tonight, mate.
I'll say this: the Tigers did beat the Cowboys by how many points? There were about 4 or 5 weeks there where they won 2 or 3 games and were competitive. They lost 74-0, but they have good performances in them. And the Sharks, they slip up. They haven't beaten a top 8 side, I don't think, this year. The Sharks aren't a sure bet. Come on.
Just stop oil. Just stop reporting on these protesters. I was really disappointed listening to another radio station sports bulletin on the way in, and they spent 30 to 45 seconds outlining what the cause was for these clowns to jump onto the courts at Wimbledon and try and disrupt the tennis, just like they tried to disrupt the Ashes test at Edgbaston, right? At Lords, wasn't it, where they got carried off? Did Bairstow carry him off? I think it was at Lords. Was it Lords that he got carried off? See, I
don't know. Was it Lords or Edgbaston?
I think it was Lords. I actually think it was Lords.
I don't know.
See, I mean, the Bairstow thing is just basically...
I think it was, because it was on Monday, wasn't it?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, look, I don't care what you're protesting. I don't give a stuff what you're protesting. And to try and turn around and think that this is relevant, what is relevant is getting rid of you out of sport and sports stadiums so that you clowns don't come along and disrupt the entertainment that everyone else has paid their hard-earned cash to watch. So... my thing to all the news organisations is, listen, let them send you a press release like every other protest organisation does, right? And report it that way. But don't include it in your sports news like it is news, because it's not bloody news. Finally, explain to me why the NBA, which has a regular season which no one gives an absolute monkeys about these days, has a brilliant playoffs, why are they re-establishing another tournament within the season? What is the point of this?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, sorry, I'm just trying to find the details of it because I got into an article that previewed the details coming out. The Final Four of the NBA's new in-season tournament will take place on December 7th and 9th in Las Vegas. Statistics will count for the league's regular season except for the championship game of the event. Full details of the competition, including groupings, will be unveiled Saturday night, so that'll be on Sunday. So it's, in December there'll be an in-season tournament between the Final Four. Is that determined by the top 2 in each conference? I'm not too sure.
But who cares, mate?
But why is it there?
What is the point? I mean, look, I don't mind the play-in tournament. I mean, I know you don't really like that, but what it's done is it's opened up the end of the season so that, teams actually...
Here we go. All teams will participate in the group stage, which will consist of 6 groups in total, 3 per conference, and chosen by a random draw based on teams. Knockout stage games will be single elimination through to the final, and it takes place across 2 or 3 days. And just say, I just don't get it. It's unnecessary.
Oh, totally.
You don't need to do it.
What's the point of it?
You've already got a league full of players who don't want to play.
No.
They look to rest as much as they can.
They're already saying that they need load management. And now you're putting another tournament in where they're going to have to play and actually physically compete.
Yeah, and then comparing it to in-season tournaments to what is commonly seen in European football.
No, there's not in-season tournaments. No. They are leagues, like the Champions League.
Champions League, FA Cup, Premier League. They're all proper competitions that have been around for decades.
And they also don't play 82 games a season, right?
Yeah.
The players are boycotting the media, NRL players, right from tonight through to Origin. The NRL and the RLPA are at war. Brad Walter from NRL.com joins us. All right, Brad, what is the latest on this? It's going to be enforced from, I guess, tonight.
Yeah, well, it's basically as of yesterday afternoon, the RLPA announced that the players won't be doing any media, won't be doing any interviews, speaking, won't be on TV or radio or speaking to print journalists on the day of any game. So this weekend, for example, that would mean Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then again next Wednesday when State of Origin's on, and then the following weekend's rounds or next weekend's round of matches. So it's basically a media blackout. It's going to be very weird seeing the TV coverage in particular, and that's what most people see. They don't usually see print journalists doing interviews, but most people are now used to players being interviewed before games, at halftime as they come from the field, and obviously post-match, particularly in State of Origin where they conduct maybe a dozen or more interviews on the field with players from both teams, etc. And so that at this stage, unless there's some sort of resolution or some sort of back down, that's going to be the case for State of Origin next Wednesday night and for all the NRL matches starting tonight. So it's going to be weird, but obviously it really puts the fact that the CBA or the CBA negotiations, right in the spotlight and makes it, I suppose, an issue that affects all of us now.
Yeah, I know that the players voted for this, but in every situation like this, you and me both have enough experience to know that there will be dissenting voices, and there will be those amongst the playing group who decide that, I don't actually particularly like this. How staunch are they going to be with all their members about it?
Well, there's one issue that hasn't been raised yet, and I think we'll see that happen over the weekend. But there's players that have got contracts with media, with television, with TV and radio. Like, are they going to continue? Are they going to not do their work? Are they not going to speak, or are they, are they going to say, I won't be on the commentary team, or I won't do my sort of cameo role, I won't appear on this program. What are they going to do? Are they going to forfeit money? I think that's going to be a really interesting point, because if they believe in this, that this is a I suppose a way to bring this to a head, well then it needs to be a complete blackout, doesn't it? I mean, that's what most of us if we were to go on strike or to take some sort of industrial action, it's a one in all in thing, and you don't make exceptions because somebody's. So, you don't go and do a job because somebody's paying you a little bit more to do it. That's effectively going against the group. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. I don't think that's really been raised yet, but and I'm sure that will cause some dissension if that occurs. So, that's and we'll have. There's no doubt there'll be players who want to speak, and it's going to be really hard for them, especially if they win a match or they perform well or something happens in the game that they want to talk about. Well. It's a moment in the sun. We've got a lot of guys because of the State of Origin period, there's a lot of players making their debuts this weekend, that sort of thing. That occasion could well be, lost for those players, that given up. So, it's going to be hard to see them all holding the line. Usually when you have some form of industrial action, not everybody's 100% on board or committed or even understands what they're actually doing, So I think that will be I think that will be interesting to watch.
Sam Harvey, he's an ultra marathon runner. That means he starts running and he just keeps running and he keeps running. He's like Forrest Gump. He never stops running. 101 hours. Sam Harvey. I just can't even get my head around the numbers, mate. So on Monday, you finish 43 hours, 288 Ks. And that's 10 days after tying the world record in Australia, 677 Ks, running non-stop for 4 days or 101 hours. What's the bit that hurts the most? I mean, is that stupid? Is it your feet?
Yeah, you kind of get used to it. I mean, at that point, you're so deep, everything kind of hurts and you dissociate. I mean, certain pains become a little bit more acute or severe at times. But yeah, you just normalise being in a state of full body pain, and yeah, you carry on. But yeah, the feet are obviously pretty clobbered. The joints, they get pretty worn. So your hips and your knees and your ankles are generally throbbing or got a sharp, searing pain. And that's basically life for a few days.
How long does it take you then to fully get back to what you would consider to be normal after doing one of these ultras?
It really depends. I definitely have adapted quicker. I think my body's made adaptations to basically say, oh, well, he's going to keep doing this to us. We may as well fix up and get ready for the next one. And so rather than that taking months or weeks to recover, like I can generally go for a run within a day or two after them, depending on how much of a beating I've taken. Obviously, if you do 101 hours of it, then you're a bit worse for wear, and maybe you're not going to go for a run for a week. But yeah, a week is about a good turnaround at a bare minimum.
What's the worst bit of it, Sam, and where do you go during those worst bits?
There's lots of bad bits, honestly. And I mean, the 43-hour one that I did after the 101 hour, the 43-hour one, I was in a bad place for most of it, especially the second day of running. Basically, all of the Sunday, I'd resigned myself to the fact that I didn't think I was going to be the finisher, because there's only one finisher, and that's the person who's left standing. And I thought, well, I'm just going to stay out here all day and continue to mutilate my soul a little bit. And yeah, that's essentially what I did all of Sunday. So yeah, lots of dark places, lots of pain. On the Sunday, I was doing something that I never do, and I was like shouting at myself, and I was like a lot of audible hate towards myself.
Wow.
For being cocky and arrogant on the first day and going a little bit too fast. And I was basically intentionally punishing myself, knowing that I wasn't going to win, but I wanted to endure the suffering so that I kind of learnt the lesson of being too cocky on the Saturday. I really kind of beat that lesson into myself. And then, yeah, by the time it was the Sunday night, and I'd kind of finished destroying myself, I realised that we were actually getting towards the end of the race where it was within winnable territory, and I was like, oh, actually, you're not dying. Like, you can complete this. So I changed the mindset and got into attack mode, really.
Sam Harvey, ultra marathon champion that you are. God, man, that's the hurt locker and the hate locker all at once, isn't it?
Yeah, big time. I don't generally go into places like that. I prepare. I'm calculated. I enjoy riding the wave and being in control and just being a bit of a professional about how I come about a race. And so it is enjoyable. It's not kind of suffering for the most part, and there is suffering, but you can kind of get through that not too bad. Where, yeah, this 43-hour race was unlike any I've ever done before, because obviously I was coming off the back of the 101 hour. No one really, well, a lot of people didn't think I could do it, and a lot of people thought I shouldn't do it. And even I was thinking, damn, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done this. And I guess I proved everyone, including myself, wrong, which is cool.
It sounds like just such a battle of mind over matter, is it?
100%. I mean, when people go really, really deep, and they've been running for a couple of days with me, and then they finally give up, I generally ask them, how much did you have left in you? And some of them say, oh, I could have gone for X many hours longer, but I was soft. And then some of them say, oh, no, I couldn't go any longer. And I say, nah, you're lying, because you were able to finish the last lap and you just decided not to go out on the next one. And I mean, if you can finish a lap, then you can start the next lap. And if you can start that lap, then you can finish that lap. And unless you completely collapse or you take more than the hour to complete the loop and you time out, then yeah, you've got more in the tank, and it's just a decision that you've made that you don't want to go any further. It's not that you can't. And so that's where the beauty in the sport is you're finding the limits of your mind rather than the limits of your body quite often.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.